In this video, we'll be breaking down why it's so hard for you to quit gaming, even if you try to. Or rather, why is it so hard that quitting gaming doesn't feel like it's a part of you? Like, you feel weird and you feel out of place when you try to quit gaming. If you guys are new here, my name is Madhu, and I help parents rid their sons of gaming addiction. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, like and subscribe so it's a win-win for both of us. There's been many things I've been doing to help transition away from gaming so I can not go back to it as a sense of escapism. And one of the best things that's been helpful is investing time into new productive habits. This can range from anything from going out to extreme sports to just spending time with family or just simply reading. Anything to get my mind off of gaming and help me feel like I'm doing something productive with my life. One of those new habits is working on my free Skool community so I can help people just like yourself understand why they're addicted to games in the first place and what we can do to get yourself out of it. I actually write weekly posts about, hey, like there's this new study that came out that looks at this part of the brain and how that affects your gaming, or we can talk about how relationship between parents and children and how to best get them to transition out of gaming so they can either get it under control or exterminate it altogether. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because dedicating my time and my effort into productive habits like this helped me reframe my brain into thinking that I'm doing something useful, which is what gaming essentially does for you. It tries to trick you and convince you to the fact that the goals that you have in a particular game is somehow just as important or even more important than your goals in real life. And it tricks you into committing to those long term, and that's how you end up wasting so much time and getting addicted in the process. Spending that same time and effort, but doing it into habits that are not only productive, but they have a greater sense of purpose attached to them. So when I'm saying I'm helping parents or even young men help gaming addiction, I'm doing it as a self-transcending goal. It's beyond me. It's something that's greater than me, and I'm just chipping in my efforts in trying to accomplish that goal. This is the first tip I have for you. If you feel like being a gamer is part of your identity, involve yourself in self-transcending goals that are bigger than you. The best way to know if a goal is self-transcending is that you can be benefiting off of it. Let's say like going out to get food or going to the gym is something that you benefit off selfishly. And while these are all fine transitionary activities to do, these are not self-transcendent enough because at the end of the day, it's only you that's benefiting from it. In order to have that sense of purpose and that sense of enjoyment and that sense of deeper meaning, you have to do something that benefits other people or even a community. It sort of activates like primal human impulses to like chip into the community or chip into the family. However, with that being said, sometimes even I still feel like I am a gamer who spends time playing games. Since I've been doing it for, like I said, 12 years, almost half my life, the habits of playing games and feeling good about playing games and accomplishing things within the game is very, very embedded into my psyche. And it's something that over time has shaped my identity and has become a part of me, honestly. And while this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, it is 100% a bad thing if it takes over my priorities and puts itself at the top of everything. And then it becomes an addiction. So if your son is going through this, or if you yourself are going through it where you're trying to stop gaming, but for some reason, despite your best efforts, you feel like gaming is something that you do, it's something integral to your human experience, then let me help you figure that out. Understand that it's not that I have some sort of resistance or you have some sort of friction to developing the new habits. Those new habits can exist independently. The problem is that no matter what habits you get into, ultimately you haven't done it long enough where it can compete with the time you spent gaming. So at the end of the day, when you go to sleep at night, while you can feel proud that, hey, I did this, hey, I did this, and you can genuinely feel proud of yourself like I do, at the end of the day, it feels like something is missing because you haven't done what you've been doing for the longest, which is playing games. And in this type of transitionary period, sometimes you can be overwhelmed and you can feel lost in yourself because you're in this uncomfortable period where you're going from one identity to another, and that interim can be quite confusing and quite empty sometimes, actually. And understand this gamer tag that you have placed onto yourself can exist for a multitude of reasons. Number one, you had tons of fun playing games, and over time you associated positive memories with it and wore the gamer tag proudly, which is something that I happen to not fall prey to, but it's something that happened to me. I genuinely loved gaming, and even though I was good at other things in life, I genuinely liked gaming mostly because of how stimulatory it is. We'll cover that in another video, but I genuinely liked gaming and I liked being a gamer despite all the negative attributes that people associated with it. I've always been immune to it, and I felt that being a gamer is cool and I like being a gamer. And over time, with enough reps and with enough time, this became a part of my identity where I identify myself as a gamer. And it became hard for me to quit gaming simply because it is something that I have gotten used to. and it's something that I've received a lot of positive reinforcement for within my life. The second reason is, and this is more of the norm, is that you didn't fit into any other group or clique growing up, and you turn into the anonymous online nature of gaming in order to feel like you're part of an in-group. This is where the nerd stereotype comes from, where like people are just socially awkward and they haven't grown into themselves yet, and they don't have a sense of identity of what they want, and they don't have the force of personality to assert that over not only their own lives but the lives of other people. So in turn they turn to something like video games, which is mostly seclusive, and they don't have to show their face, they don't have to have any social interactions, and they can simply play and be rewarded for it. Oftentimes people can grow attached to gaming as a result and make this a part of their identity, because at the end of the day it's the only form of social interaction that they have within their lives, and they want to hold fast to it as long as possible. So even if you manage to transition out of this in your later years, you might still be holding on to that gamer tag unconsciously, simply because it's something that helped you get by hard times in the past. So if you or your son are dealing with any of these problems, what can you do to help yourself out of this? Before I tell you that, understand that it's this sense of having a tag, like tagging yourself as a gamer, is one of the biggest reasons why you're having an impediment on your progress. Because no matter what you try to do, no matter what kind of positive attributes you try to imbue for yourself, you almost have this notion in the back of your head that like, I am a gamer. And sometimes even in rare cases, your son might think that like, I'm someone that doesn't deserve success simply because I am a gamer. I am someone that stays secluded in front of their screen the whole time and wants to play games all the time. And as a result, I am not like the other people. I am less than them. Hence, I don't deserve any success. This can be quite a tricky problem to solve, and it can take a while. And as referenced by myself, it's something that sneaks up on me, and it's something that I actively have to zero in on and work on over time, because like I said, it's a 12-year habit. It's going to take a while for me to rid myself of it completely. So what can you do? What we're going to do is employ the magic of confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is something that exists within psychology, and it's a very, very powerful tool for insulating the human ego. Now, understand one of the biggest differences between us and like apes is the fact that humans have an overemphasized sense of ego. It's what makes us human, and it's one of the driving factors as to why we were able to accelerate ahead of other species, is because we always have our best interests at heart, and we're always looking for ways to enrich our own lives subconsciously. And what confirmation bias essentially is that it's your brain trying to go out of its way to actively make you correct. So whatever thoughts you're having, whatever beliefs you believe in, your brain doesn't want to disagree with you, because that can create internal strife within your head. As a result, it will go out of its way to find evidence in the real world to make yourself believe you're correct. Now, as I'm saying this, you can probably understand how important this is in terms of not only gaming addiction, but in life in general. The power of belief is a very real thing, simply because of confirmation bias. When you think certain thoughts, your brain will try to prove to you that you're correct. So, for an example, if I think I'm so good looking, for instance, my brain will go out of its way to remember all the times like girls held eye contacts or girls have responded positively when I flirted with them. Like, it will try to go out of its way to prove that I'm correct. And as a result, my identity, what I think I am, will get reinforced more and more and more. This can also take a turn for the worse. Let's say your son is someone who thinks he's a loser and he's someone that only gets by by playing games all day. If he believes it strong enough, his brain is going to go out of its way to prove him correct. He'll only start thinking about the times where he couldn't go to a social event because he was too anxious, or he couldn't make himself talk to a girl because he was too nervous, and like he remembers coping by playing video games instead. So it's important to have a very, very minute and very precise control over what you think, because it can ultimately impact how you behave in the real world and what kind of principles you ultimately have, because our beliefs influence the principles we hold dear to us. It can be a very powerful tool for installing new habits and can cause a very powerful amount of forward momentum within your life. If I didn't think of myself as like, hey, I'm this ex-gaming addict and I have something to give to the world and I have something to give to parents of young men and young men themselves, I wouldn't be able to sit here and record this YouTube video if I didn't have that powerful belief inside my heart. So while confirmation bias can be extremely useful, it's also can be the opposite. It can be extremely damaging if you can only think of negative thoughts that can snowball into just a giant wall that prevents you from accomplishing anything in your life. So ultimately, guys, confirmation bias is one of the most powerful techniques you can use to rid yourself or your son of gaming addiction. You have to constantly tell yourself just the thoughts that you need to hear in order to break yourself out of that negative spiral where you think you don't deserve success, or you think you're someone that should be addicted to games their entire lives because they're not worth anything else. It is a very long and arduous process, and it can take quite a long time to get to a level where you can shed that gamer tag off from your identity altogether. So if you'd like, I can help you out with that. Like I said earlier, I have a free Skool community where I teach people and break down scientific studies and help them understand why our brains are so susceptible to being addicted in the first place and why it can be so hard to break out of it once you're addicted. I also have a video course that's included where I break down everything you need to know about video game addiction and what specific tactics you can take, including confirmation bias, that can help you permanently exterminate gaming addiction or simply get your gaming under control. There's also weekly calls and 24/7 texting, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, my links are in the description below. That's all from me for this video, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.